foolish mortals.
Hello there. Are you insane? Get out of here!
Remain seated with your seatbelt fastened.
Right, off you go.
Welcome to Average Joe Orlando. Hello, theme park goers. Happy 2025. And welcome to this next year for Average Joe Orlando. It kicked off a few months ago in late 2024. Yeah. And definitely learned a lot by doing a podcast. Always wanted to do one, always liked to listen to other ones. But now I was like, okay, time to do one. But then also learned a lot. So coming to this year, it was like, how can we revamp? So I know the trailer and everything says, oh, every week we're going to have this and that, and then end with a monthly recap. I think I'm going to be changing up some of it this year, which is good. Still the same kind of content. We'll have our lists and our reviews and our advice and deep dives. However, I think I'm going to switch up some of the things at the end of the month. So when I started the podcast, it was really cool. It was going into the Halloween season, then the holiday season. We had D23. So every month there was a lot to report to close out the month. But looking ahead, it's kind of like one of those, okay, March 2025. This month there's Flower and Garden starting, I guess, I think. And it's going to be one of those. So it's one of those, okay, let's rework some of the episodes. Let's maybe try to figure out one of them. I have a lot of things coming. I definitely have thought about some cool ones coming up. It's scheduled is going to be a Disneyland Paris one. I'm going to do a Utopia of the Seas, the Royal Caribbean cruise ship, listing out some rides, going into different theme parks that I like, kind of doing more passion projects also. It was kind of one of those, now we can get into extinct attractions. I really enjoyed doing that one. Last year I did the Magic Kingdom extinct attractions, and for me it was fun, kind of looking back of ones, talking about rides that I miss. Things that I missed at different theme parks, things that are coming. So stay tuned this year. A lot of different stuff coming. Just maybe a little different of a schedule, I would say, coming out. Maybe not as weekly as they were coming. But at the end of the day, if you're like me, you're just scrolling through a podcast, you're just kind of picking episodes. So maybe every other week wouldn't be that big of a deal. Give you something to look forward to, hopefully. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about actually new theme park offerings coming in 2025. I ended last year talking about new things that we got in 2025. And that was fun to look at and kind of go back and go, oh yeah, we did do this. Oh yeah, we did have this. Now it's kind of looking ahead. And I thought that would be kind of fun. And then I want to do Disney World, Universal, which obviously there's a lot coming there, SeaWorld, and then also a little bit of Disneyland and some other parks around the country. I always like to dive into other parks around the country, especially ones that I like, just to kind of see what else is going. Nothing international today. Not going to touch on that. That could be another thing in itself, but really the big one last year I think was Fantasy Springs, talking about the addition over there at Tokyo Disney. But let's get started. So new theme parks offerings coming in 2025. This isn't just attractions, especially for Disney World, who doesn't have a lot of attractions coming. Looking at you. But right now, if you didn't know, over at Disney World, they basically have announced a bunch of things coming for this year. It's more smaller things, a lot of taverns and lounges, things that they're getting ramped up. I think it's one of those years for them where they're like, hey, there is a new giant multi-billion-dollar theme park coming around the corner. This is their year. We're not going to be able to compete with that. Let's laying the groundwork to compete with them later on, which I think is smart. And I think they're also highly hoping that everybody that goes to Epic Universe is also planning a Disney World vacation. I don't know if they are. I don't know who could afford both vacations. If you're coming, you might do maybe one day at Magic Kingdom, but I don't know who's going to be like, and then let's spend a full week at Disney World after a full week at Universal, since now they're basically a week-long destination, which I love, and I think that's awesome. Excited to go to Epic myself. But let's start. Over at Disney, let's start over at Epcot. Epcot has the Spaceship Earth Lounge, which will be opening up this spring. Now, this is on the backside of Spaceship Earth. You can actually see the windows over by where the Walt statue is. And this is going to be basically just a lounge, another bar. This park has a lot of bars, but at least it's a lounge. There's really not a lot of bars and lounges at... there's a lot of places to drink, obviously, at Epcot. That is basically what it's turned into, just a giant bar. And unfortunately, a lot of Saturdays, just a giant frat party. What they're missing is more like lounges and more atmospheres to hang out. A lot of them are grab and goes, or you grab a snack and you eat it on the trash can because you can't find a table. So that's about it. But the Spaceship Earth Lounge is the old Siemens Lounge. That was the sponsor. And if you didn't know, when Epcot opened, and a lot of the attractions have it still, is they have lounges for the sponsors. And since a lot of them aren't sponsored anymore, they basically are turning this lounge, or this sponsorship lounge, into a guest lounge, which will be opening in the spring. So nothing too exciting or earth-shattering, but new lounge coming. There's also Test Track 3.0 opening in late summer. So this should be interesting because the last one was a little... I like the original Test Track. I'm a purist. I like the first one with the crash test dummies, and when they would do and give them a 7. Yeah, 7. And you're like, what does this mean? If you know the original, you know. But it's fun, and it's exciting to get a little bit of love over there. They've been hard at work over it. It's also a sponsored attraction. It's sponsored by General Motors. So Disney is like, yeah, dump money into it. We'll do it as fast as you want, which is funny to see how quickly, when you put money into something, you could do it. Looking at you, Tron. Let's dive over to the Magic Kingdom, where we have a tavern coming. Wow. So I originally thought, so this is the Pirates Tavern, which is opening late this year. No specific date for anything yet. But I originally thought this was going at the quick service restaurant that they don't really use anymore across from Pirates. So if you're standing at Pirates of the Caribbean and look across, there's one that's like rarely open. It's usually a treat location during parties. Maybe during peak days they have it. And then I saw online that this is actually opening in the old Pirates like Academy. So they used to have this thing where they would do it for kids where they could dress you up like a pirate, and they would do the makeup and the bandana and all that other stuff, and kind of like the Bibbidi Boppity Boutique, but pirate themed. And I guess it didn't do as well. I thought it was pretty cool that you can go there and get transformed into a pirate. I looked inside of it when it was opened, and it was small, so I'm very curious to how big this area is going to be. This is if you looking at Pirates of the Caribbean on the right, or if you're exiting the gift shop, it's on your right, since you're coming out of the ride. But it's in kind of the middle area. It's a very tight squeeze area, and it's also kind of in the middle of like a big busy area between the queue and also the gift shop. So I'm very curious what the line's going to be around it. It seems very squeezed in there, and it's probably not going to have a lot of tables. However, it's rumored to have a lot of like animatronics and like more interactive, think like Trader Sam's. So if it's anything like Trader Sam's, it'll have like 8 tables and be impossible to get into, unfortunately. So it might be a while till we get to see inside. But that should be a pretty cool addition. It is interesting to have a tavern because it's like having a bar inside Magic Kingdom, which it was always no alcohol inside Magic Kingdom. And then it slowly became, I remember when it first was, it was only you could get champagne if you get engaged at Cinderella's Royal Table was like the one rule. And then they started opening it up to like table services, and it was like beer and wine only. And now they have cocktails. So it's a slippery slope. I don't know. But I have been to Disneyland Paris, and I don't even drink. And I had a champagne on Main Street just because, first off, they have a champagne cart where they have like themed flutes. So of course I wanted one. And the fact that you could drink in front of the castle was pretty cool. So who knows which way it's heading. I think this is the biggest one next. So maybe I should have saved it for last, but hey. The Starlight Parade. So this is their new nighttime parade, which is crazy. It's been so long since there has been a nighttime parade over at Magic Kingdom. It's been overdue for years. I'm kind of bummed out it's not Paint the Night. However, we did find out Paint the Night's finally coming back, which we'll talk about later. But this is a nighttime parade coming from Magic Kingdom. They always had the Main Street Electrical Parade, the parade that, as I like to put it, will never die because it's always coming back. It's like the Cher farewell tour where you're like, oh, this is it. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's back again. And then they did Spectro Magic, which was much better and should be brought back. But apparently the rumor is they destroyed the floats, so we'll never see Spectro again. So this one is getting a lot of hype around it. So I really hope it lives up to the standard for it, because I think a lot of people are putting a lot into this and thinking, okay, nighttime parade, no pressure. So in the words of RuPaul, good luck and don't mess it up is the nicest way to put it. So that'll be interesting. It's coming this summer, and that'll be a great way to pull people over to the Magic Kingdom since, as we mentioned, Epic Universe is coming. We'll jump over to Animal Kingdom. I'm going completely out of order on these parks, but there's no order. This winter, so originally everybody's like, oh, winter means like early this year. No, it's probably at the end of the year, closer to the holidays. But Zootopia Better Together will be a 3D show that is replacing It's Tough to Be a Bug. I guess it shouldn't take that long. There is no closing date so far for Tough to Be a Bug, but if it's just a movie and maybe hopefully an animatronic, I guess it won't be a big one. I'm a little bummed out about this one. I love Tough to Be a Bug. I love Bug's Life. I feel like it's so overshadowed because it came out right after Toy Story, so it was always Toy Story everything. But Bug's Life is so good. But I don't think kids know who it is or what it is. And not gonna lie, I did see the show recently, and it's terrifying for children. I forget how dark it gets. I like it, and I think it's funny at the end when all the bugs crawl under you and everybody just screams. But it's basically just sitting in the dark and having people screaming at the screen. So I guess it's overdue. And Zootopia would be great. I would prefer getting the Zootopia land that they have in Shanghai, but hey, it's something. And I don't know how well that would fit in that park. Zootopia is cool. If you didn't know, Joe Brody, the Imagineer who created Animal Kingdom, didn't want any like fake animals. He wanted basically like real animals. Didn't want animals that talked. You could do the mysterious ones like they did Avatar and they were supposed to do dragons, or you could do the ones that are extinct like dinosaurs, but you couldn't, like his whole idea was, I don't want talking animals, which then if you go over to the Lion King show, Simba's chatting, but whatever. So now that he's not an Imagineer here anymore, I guess that's what they're doing, but we are getting a Zootopia show over at Animal Kingdom. They did announce, and at the time of this coming out, that half of Dino Land is closed. Luckily, it's the parking lot side, the Chester and Hester's Dino-Rama. So for a while, the roller coaster has been closed, and this is now officially closing the back half, which includes Triceratops Spin, and that will all be closed because they are making the Encanto ride, because this has become the Tropical Americas. They did give us reassurance that the rest of Dino Land is going to be good for 2025. So you have this entire year to still ride Dinosaur, luckily. I just hope that doesn't mean they're doing a quick refurb for Dinosaur into Indiana Jones. I'm hoping they're going to give it the love it needs, because there is 2 Indiana Jones rides in California and in Japan, and they're both phenomenal and super detailed. So I really hope it's not going to be like the first scene is Indiana Jones and then you turn the corner and it's all in the dark, which is basically what Dinosaur is. So more to come, more to see, but at least we have Dinosaur. At least your last chance to ride will be in 2025. Jumping over to Hollywood Studios, the Little Mermaid show will be reopening this summer. Now, this closed during COVID and never reopened, and now they said they are completely redoing it, giving it a full update. So I'm very curious to see how different the show is from the original, because the original was kind of rough. So it'll be nice to see. Hopefully they put some money into this. And then also this summer at Hollywood Studios, Villains and Happily Ever After is a new show. It's going in the theater in the back corner, which makes no sense, but it's in the Lightning McQueen Racing Academy Theater, which I never watched the show. It was a car on stage that drove in front of a screen. It was very bizarre. Nobody really seemed to like it. So it's interesting they're replacing it with now a villain show. I think it's going to be very popular over there, but a brand new show with the villains. It's in kind of an interesting turn, because I think it was called Club Villain opened there originally. They built this theater in like the old parking lot next to Rock and Roller Coaster. So literally you have to go through the courtyard to get to another dead end. So very strange layout, but that is par for the course over at Hollywood Studios. And it was a ticketed event with the villains, and you could meet them, and they had food, and it was like a dance party. It was cool. And it was only on there for a while, and now they're opening one for day guests, basically. So I'm curious how this show's going to be. We don't have a timeline, but they did announce where Monsters Land is going, and I'm pretty not happy about it. You have plenty of room. You don't need to. I already did a rant on this, but Muppets will be officially closing Muppet Vision 3D, which I'm not happy about. I personally love the Muppets, but I am glad that they are taking over Rock and Roller Coaster, so that'll be a good transition. So at least they will live on. They should live on in both locations. They should be everywhere. More Muppets. Yeah, more Muppets. Let's jump over to Universal. Now, at their current parks, there is really nothing going on. They did announce that Rip Ride Rocket will be closing in September this year. However, just to replace it with a new roller coaster, which is great and definitely will need it. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens to studios and to islands, and then also maybe Volcano Bay in the coming years, because Epic Universe right now is getting all the love. But also, they don't want to obviously pull the crowd. So I think the number one fear when you build a new theme park is that all of the crowds now just shift, and basically you don't increase in attendance. You just pull your numbers down in one park for another one. So I think they want to even it out and get people all coming to all 3 parks. So it'll be really interesting to see what they start doing after Epic is open, now start dumping money into the other parks. Hopefully we'll get some stuff where Poseidon's Fury was, everything like that. But Epic Universe, I did discuss a detailed conversation on this podcast in the past. But for those who don't know, is opening with 2 hotels. One that opens this month. They have the Sterra Luna and Terra Nova. And these will be going on opening one in January, one in March. And these are more of their value hotels that will be towards the outside of the park. And then inside the park, with the park, will be opening up the Helios Grand Hotel. So 3 hotels opening, and then also a giant theme park. The theme park, for those who don't know, has 5 lands. It has the main area that you walk through called Celestial Park, which will have 2 rides, a roller coaster, a dueling roller coaster, and then also a carousel, a nighttime show. Then they also have all the 4 lands that will be going in. Very curious to see how it's going to go this year. Will they be ready in time is the big question. How busy will it be? Will the lands hit capacity? It's going to be very interesting. Hopefully they've learned a lot from running their other parks that they could take over. And also staffing-wise, it's going to be really interesting to see what they do, because they are just sucking up everybody in Florida, I guess, right now to go work there, because you got to staff another theme park and 3 hotels and still run your other parks. So I'm excited for it. It's going to be very interesting how it all shifts and changes when Universal gets bigger. It's been fun this year seeing all the little changes coming to their old parks. I shouldn't call them old parks, to their current parks, just to prepare for it. For instance, the marquee signs. So when you see like the ones on the side of the road, they have just swapped those out. Over in the parking garages, all got digital displays. As you go into City Walk, got digital displays. I have a feeling they're switching a lot of things to digital just because they don't know what's going to be happening with the new parks. So will they have to put up signs that it's at capacity or parking this way? Will they run out of parking at the other ones and you have to park over at the current parks to get there? Definitely putting a lot of things in place, which is great. Also notice they've been doing a lot of overhauling for their parks, which is great. And so you can kind of, if you've been to Universal in the past few years, you could see like, you don't want to go over to Studios the day after going to Epic and be like, this park's dilapidated and brought down. No, it's going to still be shiny and new. And they've been ripping out concrete work and doing new flooring and new bathrooms and just kind of cleaning up the old parks, getting ready for this new one. Now, as I mentioned, we'll talk about some other theme parks that aren't just Disney and Universal. We will go back to Universal, though, don't worry. Oh, actually, Disney and Universal. But SeaWorld. So SeaWorld announced an Arctic Flying Theater ride, and we assume, they haven't, I think, at this point confirmed that it's coming out this year, but very curious to see where is it going, what is it going to look like. I think it's going to be over where the ice bar is. That doesn't explain much, does it? They used to have the Polar Express, the Cold Building by Sesame Street. Picking up what I'm putting down? No. Icebreaker. That would make sense because that's like the Arctic side. But I was there a few weeks ago and I didn't see any work going on. So I'm very curious to see where this goes or if it's coming this year. SeaWorld's been doing coaster after coaster. So it'll be kind of cool if they do this one. From what I hear, it's supposed to be, or read, it's supposed to be more of like a Soarin' type of thing. So it'll be very interesting to see what they do. And if it does, in fact, come out this year. We're going to leave Orlando now, head over to Disneyland. So Disneyland is turning 70 this year, which is crazy. Opened in 1955, so math. Not a ton of stuff coming. I've seen online that they kind of make fun of it as just bringing back stuff, but it's bringing back good stuff. So we are bringing back Paint the Night to Disneyland this summer, so we'll kick off in May. And that's been something that I've been wondering, where is this? I went to Disneyland for my first time for their 60th, and Paint the Night was going on, and I remember seeing it and being like, this is it. Now this is a nighttime parade. This is great. And then I went back in 2019, and they had the Main Street Electrical Parade, the parade that won't die. And I remember thinking, why is this still here? Where's Paint the Night? So I guess it's just been a warehouse, and they're dusting it off. I'm I'm guessing probably some executive was like, hey, didn't we used to have something like this? And they were like, oh, yeah, I think it's in the warehouse. Does it work? Yeah. Okay, bring it back. So I think people just forget that it existed. So I'm so glad that it's coming back. They're also bringing back the fireworks show that they had last year, Wondrous Journeys. When we come back, that's the one where Baymax flies over the castle. Spoiler alert. And then they're also, the summer will have Better Together, the Pixar parade will be back as well. So like I said, more bringing stuff back. I'm sure they'll have banners everywhere, and I'm sure they'll have a 70th cupcake because they love a cupcake. But yeah, some stuff going on over there. Nothing new announced this year for Universal Hollywood. I was kind of surprised the Fast and the Furious coaster is making really fast progress. However, they said it won't be opening till 2026, so I guess they're being a little bit more safe with that timeline and not trying to rush it. What I am curious, though, when the Fast and the Furious roller coaster opens, what will happen to the section of the tram tour? Because if you've ever been on the tram tour, the last section is Fast and the Furious Supercharged, aka the ride at Universal. So you're on this awesome backlot tour and seeing all these, Psycho and Jaws and Earthquake and all these classics, and then you end it with Fast and the Furious. So curious what they're going to do with that one. But yeah, nothing giant announced yet for Universal for this year in Hollywood. But we will travel around the world a little bit. And by the world, I mean the country. By the country, I mean 2 other theme parks. But over in Busch Gardens, Virginia, so Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, they are bringing back the one of my favorite roller coasters as a child, the Big Bad Wolf. It's going to be called Big Bad Wolf, Wolf's Revenge. I'm curious how similar it's going to be. From what I've seen, it's not going to be a hanging coaster in the same kind of like way. It'll be a hanging coaster, but not the old type. So if you didn't know, the Big Bad Wolf was a roller coaster that was in the park for a long time, and it was in their Germany section of the park, and you would go through like a town trying to run away from a wolf. It was one of those swinging coasters where you're underneath and the car would swing, and it had a lot of sets built around it, so you would actually swing through all these different buildings, and the finale of the ride would go down across a lake. And unfortunately, the manufacturer, I believe, went out of business, and the parts were hard to come by, and it was super expensive to run. So even though it was still a popular ride, they had to take it down, and people were upset. But they replaced it with Verbolten, which was, as I put it, the original Hagrid's. It has a very cool theme, and it's also, you're supposed to be in the Black Forest and escaping, and you go into like a show building, and the ride track drops and launches you to another one. And the finale is the same track layout where it goes over the lake. But it's no Big Bad Wolf. So Big Bad Wolf, they announced, will be reopening or opening again as a new coaster this summer. On the old site where Dragonfire, which was this coaster which was basically a headbanger and didn't last for long, so they had used it as kind of corporate picnic space, but we'll be putting this in. So very curious to see what they do. Hopefully there's some theming. Recently, Busch Gardens, since they're part of whatever that company's called, United Theme Parks, like the SeaWorld group, they haven't really been theming their coasters. It's more of just been a coaster on some rocks. So I'm really hoping they spend some money and do some theming, like the original Big Bad Wolf, and it lives up to the old Big Bad Wolf. And last but not least, I'm going to announce at least coming. There's a lot more coming. But for this podcast sake, at Cedar Point in Ohio, they have a new coaster coming called Siren's Curse. And this is one I've never seen before. It's like a tilt track where, kind of like Gringotts, but on a much larger scale, where it locks in and then the track tilts and then launches, drops you onto another track. So think about Gringotts, which I've seen before, obviously. It's a great coaster. The opening scene. However, a large scale roller coaster will be opening this summer. So a lot coming in 2025, especially in Orlando. So a lot to look forward to and a lot to cover on this podcast. But with that, I will see you at the parks.
Thanks for taking a ride with Average Joe Orlando.
You made it!
I knew you would. Is everyone okay? Hope you still want to open an account.
Say cheese. See you later.
Thanks, everybody. You were brilliant.
At this time, gather up your personal belongings and take your small grubs by their grubby little hands as you exit. Thank you.